Welcome to the Nonprofit Exchange Podcast. Stories by leaders for leaders to help you raise the bar on your own excellence, to release the potential inside of you. Now, here's today's podcast.
Hey, it's Hugh Ballou. We're here on Tuesday for the Nonprofit Exchange with Russell David Dennis from Denver, Mile High, Colorado. How are you today, Russell?
It's another beautiful day here in Aurora, Colorado. Looking forward to chatting with my friend Bud Michael about growing early stage companies this afternoon.
And we need to help nonprofits think about business principles. So Bud, you have some really sound business principles that nonprofit leaders need to embrace because in fact they are tax exempt for purpose businesses. And so Bud, we're gonna throw it to you. If you give us a little bit about your background and why is it that you do what you do today?
Yeah, hi, welcome everybody. It's a pleasure to join you today. I have been an operating executive in high-tech companies for 40 years. I've run 4 companies and have successfully exited companies. The last 2 years, I have been an advisor to a nonprofit in Colorado called the Innosphere. And we work with early stage and growth stage tech companies to help them get market traction and build out their businesses. So my perspective is going to be from helping private companies build their business and develop out their teams and whatever they need to do to get market traction. I think that from working in a nonprofit for a couple of years and been associated with many, I think that a lot of the principles are nonprofits. So that's what I hope to cover today and talk with you about and see if we can apply some of the things we've learned about building and growing private companies for the nonprofit sector.
Awesome. So Russell, you live in the neighborhood there, at least you're in the same geographic location. He's in Boulder. You're in Arvada. So how are you and Bud connected?
Well, I met Bud at the Society of Physician Entrepreneurs back in December, where he came to do a briefing and he was talking to us about Innosphere, which is in effect an incubator. It's an incubator for bringing tech products to market. And I was fascinated with what he was saying. And he told me that it was organized as a nonprofit. And I thought, I got to get this guy on our podcast because he's straddling that line, running a nonprofit and working with businesses to help them become successful and bringing products to market. And it's really critical to think in terms of bringing something to a market. I think there's a lot of similarities. So the first thing I wanted Bud to address is how building a nonprofit is the same as building a for-profit enterprise. What are some of the similarities and what are some of the key differences?
Well, I think that I go back to work done by a guy named Simon Sinek who wrote a book called First Start With Why. And that's a starting point for any organization. You've got to be really clear on what is the purpose. Why are you doing what you're doing? And you know the contrast on that is that many of us, most of us, get so deep into how we deliver the services, what we do to deliver the services, that we forget about the basic premise, which is why are we doing this? And I think it's particularly important for nonprofits because of the mission. And so for any organization, you really need to get clear on, why are you doing this? Then you can start talking about, how you do it and what the particulars are about your organization to deliver value to your audience, to your membership. So I think that's the big sort of the baseline. If you don't get clear with your why, you can never really resonate with your audience, which means you're never going to really be able to gather your membership and be able to provide the kinds of services they need. What's different? Well, I think the biggest difference is the funding mechanism. As a nonprofit, you're looking for say non-equity based financing, whatever that might be, donations, contributions, membership fees, whatever it might be. And certainly in a for-profit, the initial money comes from your own funding as a founder, and then eventually bringing in other equity-based financings to support the company. But I think ironically for most people, it's less about, are you in business to make money? Everybody needs to make money to have sustainable business, right? It's the question of, are they distributed profits or are they put back into the organization to grow? And that then translates into, well, who are the shareholders, who are the stakeholders in the organization? So, I think, again, the key takeaway for me is for-profit or not-for-profit, if you really understand what your mission is, you can then identify your audience and the kinds of services that they need, that you want to deliver to them.
Yeah, with both for-profit and nonprofit type services rolled up into one, and getting the thought process toward generating revenue apart from some of the traditional thinking that people would have. What are some of the unique challenges of making that marriage where you have a nonprofit type purpose and profit making ventures sort of blended into one as a hybrid? What are some of the unique challenges that you found putting together a nonprofit that operates a business?
Yeah, it's a great question. Let me start with a basic idea, which is whatever your operating plan is for your organization, if you are delivering value to your membership, to your customers or to your stakeholders, you're going to have a sustainable organization, and you'll be able to attract the funds you need to build a business. It's true for nonprofit as much as it is for for-profit. So what is the value that you're delivering to the audience, and how are you going to deliver those services to them, right? And if you are clear on that, and you're differentiatable services, then you'll have an organization that will sustain itself. If you're not clear on that, you're going to be all over the map. And one of the things that we talk with our entrepreneurs about is focus, and really understand, again, it gets back to the why, but really understand who is your target audience, what's your value proposition as a nonprofit, right? Why are you doing this? And if you weren't there, how would that constituent solve that problem, wherever it is? Now, I think an interesting distinction is in for-profit organizations, the value proposition tends to be economic, right? So you're going to buy my goods or services, and for that, you're going to get some kind of a return. You're going to get, more business efficiencies. You're going to deliver higher return to your stakeholders. There's going to be some economic value you can measure by doing that. It could be you're just going to get, greater return on the investments that you make, greater asset return. In a nonprofit, I think more than anything, the return I get by being a member of the nonprofit is an emotional return, right? It's because we share a common belief, we share a common that core value, whatever the nonprofit, or is intended to do. And so it's less to the, I think it's less to the economic return. It's much more to the purpose and the community return. But whatever that is, it still has to resonate. It still has to solve that need, for your customer. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yes, it does. You have a number of audiences that you're serving, and that's a challenge for a lot of nonprofits. Some of them traditionally don't talk about things like value. And then you have so many different constituencies that are actually customers or stakeholders. You've got people who are connecting to your agency in multiple ways. So talk a little bit about how you discuss these multiple audiences with nonprofits, because you have people that are getting your services, you have donors, you have agencies that fund them. In the case of a hybrid, where there's a combination of economic benefit as well as personal benefit for people that are getting your services, when you run into an organization and you're talking to them about value that you provide, how do you have that conversation in a way that helps the people in the nonprofit get that they're playing the multiple constituencies, and that yes, they are providing value?
Yeah, it really comes down to how are you delivering on your mission, your purpose, and what are you doing in terms of services or even products to offer, right? Because we all go at something with a different, call it problem set, or different need that you're trying to solve, right? And so in Innosphere's case, we use Innosphere as an example. So our why, our purpose is economic development. Innosphere is purposed to help develop jobs in Colorado. So that's our why. How do we do that? Is by working with startups and growth companies, because those are the employers, those are the ones that create jobs. So to the extent that we are helping them build out their business, they're going to create jobs and we can deliver on our mission, right? What do we do are the products that we offer and the various services. So we work with entrepreneurs that need to find money. We work with entrepreneurs that need to develop out their executive team. We work, another one of the products we offer is in coaching them with business systems and methods and planning, right? So that they can scale the business. But at any given time, any one of our entrepreneurs that's working with us has got a different need. So the product that's delivers against that need. It manifests differently, but it's all moving toward the same goal, which is get these companies successful so that they'll create jobs in Colorado, right? So for your nonprofit, again, you think about, well, why are we there? What's our purpose? Then you think about, well, how are we going to deliver to that purpose? Are we going to, for example, if we're going to be Goodwill Industries, right? We're going to deliver by picking up donated goods. We're going to create the systems and the methods to deliver those goods efficiently and cost affordably for the audiences. We're going to have retail stores, right? So you think about, those are the how you're going to get it done. And the products you're going to offer are, pickup of services. You're going to offer, refurbishing goods for people, right? So it's those kind of ways as you drill into that and the products that you offer. It really comes down to your point, Russ, that at any given time, the reason I'm interested in working with your nonprofit, donating to your nonprofit, is because your mission resonates with me. And as long as you keep close to your constituents and you deliver on those things that they can use to get their own benefit, their own value return for being a member, you'll connect with your audience.
I love the job creation aspect of Goodwill Industries too. That's a marvelous example because they do so many things. And so what you're talking about essentially, Bud, is what we would call critical success factors. And what are the ones that you think are most important for any enterprise and particularly for nonprofits?
Critical success factors probably boils down into how you can execute on your plan, right? And do you have something else that we talk a lot about that I think is relevant for nonprofits? It's a concept called the whole product. Each of us bring to bear one element, one part of what could resonate, what could be of value to your constituent, right? But Goodwill Industries couldn't deliver on their promise if they didn't have trucks. They couldn't deliver on their promise if they didn't have people to drive the trucks, right? And they couldn't deliver on the promise if they didn't have retail outlets. So you start going through, and so the whole product is a concept that says, what are all of the things that we need to have as part of our services to deliver on our promise to our constituents, to deliver on our purpose, right? And so the critical success factors start with, do you really understand everything that your constituent needs to get value from your nonprofit? And quite often, more of those things come from outside of your immediate organization, right? It's your ecosystem, it's your network that you've got to bring into play. And so you create partnerships and you create like-minded groups and collaboration to deliver on this whole product idea. So I would say critical success factor number one is, do you really understand your why? Critical success factor number two is, do you understand what it's going to take and all the pieces to it, right? Many nonprofits now have gone to having online web communities, right? Well, part of your whole product is you need to have a robust website that delivers on, that part of your value. So do you understand and do you have in place everything that you need to deliver on that brand promise, on that value promise? And if not, where are you going to get it, right? How are you going to partner with organizations or people to go get it? And then lastly, it's just the execution. It's, do you have a solid operating plan? Do you have a good, solid, continuous fundraising and funding mechanism, right? How are you going to go about doing all that? Because no organization can survive if you don't have the capital to support the organization. So having a good, solid, executable plan and mapping against that plan. So, and I think both of those are true again for the for-profit as well as nonprofits.
Well, there's you make a good point, Bud. There, in my mind, there's really no distinction in the whole structure of the organization. You've got a for-profit enterprise, people are buying goods and services, and you've got a for-purpose enterprise, people are, which is attracting money because of the value, the unique value proposition that you talked about earlier. Why do you think we've referred, or at least I refer to people leading nonprofits as a social entrepreneur, and with all the gifts and the liabilities of entrepreneurs, the shiny object, I'm going to do it myself. I'm not going to work with other people because I don't want a routine. The lack of having the gift of discipline and routine, which really penalizes. So speak to the person that says, oh, I don't want a strategy, it's going to limit my creativity, or that kind of mindset.
It's an interesting one. So let me give you the.
You were smiling like you had heard this before.
Well, I hear it every single day from entrepreneurs, right? I mean, don't contain my creative juices. I can solve all the world's problems. And
We are unique individuals. People ask me all the time, all of you entrepreneurs suffer from insanity? And my answer is, hell no, we enjoy it.
That's right. That's right. So when I think about establishing your presence in your world, in your constituent, to deliver on your why are you doing this at all, right? Getting traction, meaning getting that toehold in the audience and really getting crisp on who you are, why you're doing it, and for whom. And from there, you can take that momentum, because it's all about starting someplace and getting momentum, and then you can branch out, right? So I'll give you an example again, back to very near and dear to my heart, through the Innosphere and how we've played this out over 20 years, and then I'll come back and I'll give you a metaphor to sort of picture in your own mind as to the difference. So with Innosphere, we started out specifically supporting bioscience and life science companies that are technology being spun out of University of Colorado. And its purpose 20 years ago was to help the scientists at CSU to figure out what of their experiments could be commercialized. So they had no way to vet them. So that was the original core purpose, and that was how we were going to deliver on job growth, and particularly in Fort Collins. Okay, fast forward 20 years. We now support clean tech. We support enterprise software and hardware companies. We support digital health companies. We do that in Fort Collins, in Boulder, in Denver, in Parker, and Colorado Springs. But we didn't get there by trying to do all of that at the same time, is the key point, right? You start somewhere, you get focused around, what is your initial starting point, and that allows you to create momentum that then you can leverage and build out from there. You can build out to offering more services. You can build out, through broadening your geographic reach, whatever it might be. But the more you're able to focus on that initial problem or value you're trying to deliver, the reason your constituents would care and want to support you, and then you build it from there. And so the metaphor, and I'll come back to the metaphor. So imagine getting into market, establishing your nonprofit to be known at all, right? It's a bit like trying to get through a brick wall, because there's a lot of resistance to be able to get some traction, get momentum going, right? You can do it by taking a wrecking ball and trying to smash through the brick wall. And eventually you'll be able to get there, right? It'll take a lot of energy. There'll be a lot of collateral damage. You may or may not survive because you can't fund yourself. You can't, you're going to make more and more. The other way you could do it is you could take a 1/4-inch drill bit and drill a hole into the wall. It's a lot more efficient, takes a lot less energy, it's a lot more precise. And then once you've got the hole in the wall with a 1/4-inch drill bit, you take out a 1/2-inch drill bit and you widen the hole. And you can build it out from there. And that metaphor is exactly back to the point to highly creative entrepreneurs, which is, hey, I want to do this, and I'm going to go at it on multiple fronts at multiple times. You find out that your success is much higher the more you can get focused on that initial beachhead market or that initial purpose, and then build it from there once you've got momentum. So it's not about containing creative juices. It's much more about channeling those juices in a way that you're able to create momentum, create a brand, and then you can build out your constituency once you've got, you're set and you've got some established position in your, in your market.
Russell, I'm sorry I interrupted your really effective line of questioning, but I had one more, if I may, Russ, for you pick up your orderly interviewing here. Bud, you just threw out a bomb, your brand. Now, a lot of, we'll go back to this, I don't need that back again with this stuff with entrepreneurs. Nonprofits especially don't go through the discipline of creating their brand image, their brand promise. They think a logo is their brand, this pretty picture. So do you want to take a shot at that one? That's related to the why and your unique value, isn't it? And how is it related?
That's exactly right. And we can pick our favorite brand, and it will immediately connote in our minds who that organization or who that company is, what they do, why they do it. It allows you to decide whether you're going to, whether you support them or not. You talked earlier about the social enterprise, right? So one of the key things I think personally that nonprofits have going for them is, as I said earlier, generally speaking, the value is an emotional. I'm doing it because there's a bigger cause. It's a community value that I want to get to, right? As opposed to just the economic return for doing it. A profit to establish brand so that their audiences can really understand who they are, what they stand for, and whether this is an organization I want to spend my time with, volunteer with, whether I want to align myself with it. Your logo is one manifestation of your brand, but it's just one, right? Your brand and your brand promise is everything to do about how you present your nonprofit to the community. Unfortunately, there's been many examples of late where what the organization says they stand for and what their members do are two different things. One of the biggest ways you can completely destroy your brand is inconsistencies in what you say and your behaviors, right? So your brand, so what does that mean? It means that your organization's culture becomes a very real part about your brand, right? Are you all, certainly you would all be, marching to the same high order purpose, but your brand to your constituency is a way for them to distinguish who you are, and is this an organization I want to have my personal brand, right, be aligned with. So it's a 2 or 3 hour conversation on its own, but the key thing to remember is, like you said, most people think of a brand as being the logo or trademarks, right? And that's just one manifestation. Your brand encompasses everything, every image, every part about your organization that you put forward, including how your team members react, how they present themselves in the community. It all has an impact on whether I can support, whether they believe in your nonprofit. Final thing is trust. We all, at the end of the day, align ourselves with people and organizations we trust. And trust has, the brand connects back with the trust, and can I rely on this organization to be who I think they are and who I want them to be, right? Gets back into the behavior. So yeah, so brand is a very, very broad topic. It's usually, boils down into, a nice logo and good colors, but it's much more than that. And you really need to be thinking about that. And then obviously tie it back to key theme. Does your brand align and support your mission?
Key items. What do you think there, Russ?
think we may have, did we lose connection here?
Every now and then you go silent in your connection. It looks like Russell's got an iffy connection. He's frozen in our audio here. So as we're moving down the list here, factor in, you talked about strategy and brand. You talked about how the brand is actually represented by the people in the organization. And we've had David Corbin on here, who's got the book called Brand Slaughter, how one person can totally ruin the image of an organization. We know of famous situations for big companies. We won't mention names, but their initials are United. But some companies, one person can really spoil the image, and they're really not acting within the principles, the core principles. We define core values, and we feel good about them, and we put them away, and they don't affect our culture very effectively. Our strategies then develop guiding principles of how we make defining decisions, which is in line with who we are in our culture, which is defined pretty much by our brand. So looking at your roadmap, which is your strategic plan, and looking at the implementation of it, what are some of the biggest challenges you see for the leader, the person that's trying to get it done? What's the biggest challenge for the leader taking this piece of paper, which is a strategy, and making it become real? What's the, some of the biggest challenges?
So there's an old Chinese proverb that says, a vision without a plan is a daydream, and a plan without a vision is a nightmare. The connection point for any organization is, do you have an operating plan that's supportable by the resources that you've got, the people that you've got, and is tied into who you are, community. The biggest challenge, I think, for any leader is staying on course, because there are innumerable opportunities to go try this, go do that, go start this, go do whatever, right? And I think one of the most effective tools to help a leader stay on course is a concept called the parking lot. Because you get in meetings, and you'll get in planning meetings, or you'll be out meeting with a new donor, and they're I love everything you're doing, but you should just be doing this one more thing, right? Thing number one is you should have a mechanism to take those ideas and put them into a framework where you and your leadership team can discuss them and talk about them, prioritize them, and really, really, again, get back to the notion of, okay, this is an interesting idea. We can do this part of it, but we need these other organizations or these other people to help us do the other part to really make it happen. It starts with the parking lot, because at any given time you're operating, if you are executing on your operating plan, you're doing stuff. You're doing stuff that at one point in a planning meeting you decided was the right thing to do, right? So the fact that this next shiny object comes in, or new idea comes in, doesn't or shouldn't usurp the time you put into deciding what to do now. What it does do is it introduces new possibilities. And so you put those into a parking lot. A parking lot could be a whiteboard. It could be just noted in a notepad. It could be put in an Excel file. But put it somewhere that you as your leadership team on a regular basis, usually monthly, right? Certainly every quarter, you come back to. And you say, all right, are we operating against the things, our goals, and what we said we needed to do? Yes. Okay. What else can we do? Let's take a look at the new ideas that have come in that are in the parking lot, right? And you can very quickly say, okay, around the room, here are 10 ideas. Let's talk about 3 of them. So let's pick 3, right? And you go through them, you can process them. You can do that. If you start getting that discipline where you're doing that on a monthly basis, then you'll have a good combination of executing against your plan, because the idea of the parking lot is just because it's a good idea doesn't mean you should start doing it now. Put it in the parking lot, put it to a place where you can come back to it, really critically analyze it, right? Including scoping out what is it going to take to deliver, do we have the resources? Is this largely an extension of what we're doing today, or is this a brand new thing? If it's a brand new thing, then, how are we going to deliver on that, right? But that's how that method works pretty well, because it sort of is a good balance between saying, hey, all you creative folks out there with new ideas, we're not saying no, we're saying, let's put it in a place where we can come back and analyze it, work it with the team, figure out what it's really going to take. So ideas start out as daydreams, and then when you put a plan to it, you can actually start executing to it.
I see Russell is back. Russell, you had you cut off for a while ago. Are you back on a connection, Russ? I'm not sure he's back yet. So you're on a roll there, bud. You have a lot of good answers. So go back to where you developed all of this practical knowledge. How did you get fluent in all of these things you're talking about? Did you go to study? Did you study? Did you learn from people? Did you learn from another discipline? How did you get here?
Yeah. First of all, I'm a voracious reader. I don't read fiction. I read history. I read books written by people that have, their credibility is in making a bunch of mistakes and writing about it, so that other people don't repeat them. I've been at this for 40 years. I did go to graduate school, but I can tell you that what I learned and what I've been really just by working people to do it. There's a group that we Innosphere are affiliated with. It's called TrueSpace. They do what we do, but they're a for-profit doing what we do. They just completed a 4-year study with Gallup organization to look at what are the critical success factors of an organization. Why do some succeed and why do others fail? And the number one differentiator is, are you a learning organization? And what does that mean? It means, do you have a systematic way to take what you've learned and put it back into your organization? And so I know all mistakes. I just assume not make mistakes that other people have made that I can, know about ahead of time. But I love this stuff.
Russell, can you hear us? I think we have lost Russell's contact. So, Bud, we're entering the last few minutes of our interview as we come to the last section of this. Help me think through what is a piece that we haven't addressed that you want to make sure you get on people's radar about especially growing early stage companies. What's something we haven't talked about yet?
I think the magic in all this is really not magic. It's fairly pedantic. It's doing it. We can talk all day long about the concepts and the ideas and the theories and the whatever, right? But I believe firmly that getting success has a lot more about saying no than saying yes, right? So the core theme in my mind in that regard is discipline. And do you, as a leadership group of your nonprofit, of your organization, are you committed to what you say you're going to go do, right? You obviously have got some level of plan. I mean, shooting from the hip is a plan. It's not usually a very effective one, but it's a plan. And are you committed? Are you disciplined enough to stick with your game plan, right? To pick how you're going to start and promote and develop out your brand holistically, as we talked about. Do you really understand how you're going to fit into the everyday lives of your constituents? Because they're going to wake up in the morning whether or not you're there. The question is, are you doing the things that you can add value to their lives, right? And if so, how are you going to do those things, and what products and services you're going to offer, right? We talked about getting focused, and that very much comes down to just the discipline of doing it. So one other piece around all that: how do you drive discipline? There's this concept of working in the organization versus working on the organization, right? Most of what I do as a business advisor is I force the people that are deeply in the weeds to step out of the weeds and work on the organization. Because you spend your life in it, right? You're making the phone calls, you're talking to the donors, you're developing out, collateral, you're, whatever. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you're doing, which is all working in there, and you have to do that to be successful, for sure. But if you're not stepping out of it on a regular basis, and I would say at least monthly, and you're looking and you're revisiting, are we delivering on what we believe we should be doing, right? Are we staying committed to the investment that we made in time and energy to get to this point? Are we continually checking in with our parking lot to make sure that there's not new opportunities for us to expand and deliver better services, more services to more people, right? That's all working on your business. You've got to commit the time to do that, right? If you aren't doing that at least 2 hours a month, separate the time, carve it out, make the commitment, right? It's not that you won't be successful. It's you're going to spend a lot more time and energy getting there, and you're going after that brick wall with a wrecking ball.
Very well put. Very well put. So as we wrap up this really informative interview, Bud, thank you for the good stuff. We're going to do a sponsor message here and then throw it back to you for you to give a closing thought or a tip or a challenge to people who are listening today, watching today. This will be on an audio podcast. It also is, we're streaming it live on Facebook today. And then Russell will kind of do an overall summary and close us out for the day. Russell's had some technology challenges today, but he's back among the living. So our sponsor today is our own Center Vision Leadership Foundation's online community for community builders. And Bud, this interview will go in there afterwards. It's being streamed there live now, as well as on Facebook. We have resources for nonprofit leaders that stem from all kinds of things that you're talking about. We have a place people can talk, forums. We have different levels of membership for people who just want to read a few things, or people that want to really fast track their success to where they want to go. So there's a higher level, which includes live interactions with us on a weekly basis. And so Center Vision Leadership Foundation is the community. So you can go to find this interview at thenonprofitexchange.org, the word THE, nonprofitexchange.org. That's what this program is called. And when you get to that page, you'll see what the last session was and the next session. And then at the top of that page is a big blue button that says join. And so join our community. Check it out. You can join for free. And if you do that, I'll give you Hubaloo's 5 Pillars of Success, my program that I sell for $100. You get it for free. It's a video, action guides. It's how do you figure out, and you'll be pleased to know, the first part of those, the first pillar is your strategy. So join us. We have so many resources free level, a few dollars a month and a few more dollars a month opens up the knowledge vault of a lot more content. And you know what? We all think we're alone. We're lone rangers working in a vacuum. That's not true. There's a lot of people around the country that would like to talk to you and share their ideas. So we can help each other out. So, Bud, you get the last say here. What do you want to leave people with? A challenge or a tip or a thought?
Here's my challenge. What are you going to do about it? What are you, as a leader of a nonprofit, going to take away and actually go do, right? Are you going to, reach out to your community of other nonprofit leaders and for-profit leaders and connect with them, right? Get their ideas. To use point, you're not alone, right? All of this is really interesting, but it's candidly interesting but not relevant if you don't do something with it. Take it. Go get your team together, right? Get a package of sticky notes and have everybody in your team start writing down what are their values. Put them on a whiteboard. Then vote, right? Vote on the top 5 or 6 values. That'll tell you who you really are as an organization. It'll help you drive your culture. It'll help you define your brand, right? But step out of the weeds and go do something about working on your organization to give it its direction and guidance. You're the leadership. Everybody else is, by definition, following you.
Setting that direction, that's what we love to talk about at Cinevision. I love hearing the tech guy talk about the power of non-tech tools, because that's how we roll at Cinevision. So thank you, Bud Michael. It's been a pleasure. I was just looking at my notes from the talk you did back in December, and unfortunately I had a few glitches, but people will be able to find out how to reach out to you here on Cinevision. Join the community. We do have a publication, the Nonprofit Professional Performance 360 magazine. Our own Sandy Birkenmeyer loves to have articles from our guests, so she'll be reaching out to you, Bud, for some more great content. Thank you everyone here. Thank you for joining us again on this week's edition of the Nonprofit Exchange. We are here every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. You can subscribe to the podcast on both iTunes and Stitcher, and come to our website. Do come to the website and join. And if you join, you have access to all of the replays for all of our webinars, all of our guests, access to the magazine. So it's really worthwhile to come in there and have live weekly sessions with us every week. So do come and join us. Look for us again here at the same time next week on the Nonprofit Exchange.